So thank you, everybody. This is our first HNS Rings organizer, or we call them ringleaders, Jehan?
Yeah.
Ringleader meetup. So thanks for attending. This is open house. I know some of you might not be totally sure what you're getting yourselves into, but Jehan has a lot of experience, and I've also done, not within crypto, but within startup weekends and e-commerce, a lot of events and meetups. So this is an initiative to try to have people in different parts of the world have some offline in-person meetings to strengthen the community, hopefully bring in some new people. And today's just maybe Jehan will share some of his experience and insights about doing this within other communities. And of course, you want to bring your questions, your suggestions. We're trying to kick it off, Jehan. I don't know if you like the idea or we've chatted about it, but maybe we just do it the same day every month for everybody, like April 19th, like a Wednesday, and just.
I think people are going to need a way for them. They're going to need their flexibility. It's all right. Let's go through it.
Let's get started. So Jehan, do you want to get started?
Yeah. Cool. So thanks everybody. I don't know if how many of you know kind of who I am, but I'm Jehan. I'm the founder of Kinetic. I started in crypto about 2013, and I started the Ethereum Meetup in Hong Kong in March of 2014. So at that time, that was the first Ethereum Meetup in Asia, all of Asia. And I ran the Hong Kong Meetup. Technically, I still run it now, but we haven't been active for a little while, especially through COVID. And then I started Kinetic, my firm, in 2016, and we've invested in over 250 companies, ranging from like being seed investors in like Solana or Polkadot or Near or Ethereum or Alchemy, Blockdaemon, BlockFi, FTX. So we're pretty early in a lot of big deals. But one of the things that I've always kind of prided myself on was Handshake. And so we're seed investors in Handshake. We're seed investors in Namebase. And I'm one of the co-founders of Superlink, which I'm sure you guys know. And of course, I bought .NFT back in the day as well. So I love Handshake, as you can imagine. And Mike and I started HandyCon together. And I think that one of the challenges with Handshake Community is that there's a lot of it's very fragmented because we don't have a core of like a company who can help organize things, who can help drive things. Which is good and it's bad. It's bad because there's not a whole lot of centralization, but it's good because there's not a whole lot of centralization. But this is kind of how Ethereum was in the very beginning. Obviously, this is also how Bitcoin is. And I think that there's a lot of things that we can learn. And so the whole point of Handshake Rings was basically to give the community, give anybody who's willing to step up and be a leader, and really help Handshake grow, give you guys and girls the tools to make organizing events easier. And so why do we want to organize like in-person events? The thing is that like crypto is such a social beast. As you know, like people love going to conferences, people love meeting up. And that's all it is. We remain like an online, but also offline community as crypto. And I think that creating in real, like IRL events is a really good way to kind of just give people an excuse to socialize and get together, share information. Now, you could do it online as well. And sometimes we do that, especially during COVID. But I will say that there's something special about being able to, have IRL events, especially when you're trying to teach, when you're trying to educate, when you're trying to share something new. And a lot of like the purpose of these Handshake Rings, it's not so that we can talk to each other, right, endlessly. It's actually so that we can invite and educate new people who have nothing to do with Handshake, bring them into the community. Like the purpose of Handshake Rings is to grow Handshake. And so as you're thinking about like, well, why am I doing this? And should I, go left or go right? You're always gonna, for me at least, want to kind of err on the side of what is going to bring in the largest number of new people. And that's what the point of this is. In an ideal world, we have Handshake Rings that are active on a monthly basis, around the world. Like that's the vision. We even got to a point where with Ethereum meetups, I created something called the Ethereum Super Meetup. And the Ethereum Super Meetup was actually a meetup of meetups. And so around Token 2049, we did this twice in Hong Kong. We had all the meetup leaders, mostly from Asia and Europe. There weren't too many meetup leaders coming from the US. We actually did a meetup of all the meetups. And so we had this like massive meetup, still the same content. We had Vitalik, like all that kind of stuff. And it was great. So you see like this kind of structure where the meetups actually become communities unto themselves. So that's the purpose of this. The biggest challenge that I find that people face is like, oh, I don't have to like organize all this stuff. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. And I got to say, like, I'd never done any meetups before I did my first one. My first one was like 5 people in a bar, on the second floor of like, a dark bar. And I Skyped in Stefan Toole, who at the time was with Ethereum Foundation. And for those of you who know your history, Stefan Toole was the guy who actually, one of the co-founders of the DAO, like the original DAO, the one that crashed and basically that got hacked and caused the Ethereum fork. That was our first meetup. Wow. Yeah. So you can start with very little. And again, the whole point of talking through this is just to give you like a structure, some tips, some tricks, and make it as easy as possible and just show you that like, if you have like a week's notice, you can throw one of these events. They don't have to be expensive. They don't have to be complicated. They just have to like consistently exist. Like that's the key. Like consistency is key. For me, I did these meetups probably at least every month, maybe sometimes every 6 weeks, sometimes, twice a month, 3 times a month over the course of 2014 all the way to basically 2020. And then they started to tail off 2021. And I have to say, it made a huge difference, not only in terms of like educating others, but this is actually how I got all of my kind of credibility. It was actually through hosting other people. And that's how I got a lot of my expertise. I had to explain the same shit so many times that I became expert in it. And so there's a benefit to you personally as well. They say that the best way to learn is by teaching, and it's totally true. So that's my kind of preamble to all this. Let's get into like exactly how this all works. And if you're interested, I'll throw this in there. I think you should be able to see it. Where's the chat thing? Is chat enabled here? Why am I?
It should be. I also made you co-host. There you go. You got it? Okay, yeah, I see meetup.com.
Yeah, so there you can see, like, you can just scroll through my past events and stuff like this. That way you can get a sense of like what I was doing. And Handshake Rings is really just modeled after Ethereum meetups. So there's just some basic kind of tips that you want to do here, starting from zero, right? The first thing that you need when you're organizing one of these events is basically content. And content can mean a couple different things. There's different types of content. So one type of content is having a speaker. And a speaker could be somebody from a startup, one of the startups, could be someone who's part of the ecosystem, say like me, or like an investor, could be someone who's a miner. But really what you need is a topic. For me, I find that organizing one speaker is the best thing because, having like a panel of all these different people, it's just more headache. So your basic, kind of meetup, or your basic ring is going to be one speaker and you. Now, the whole point of like what Mike and I are doing with this whole ring program is that we basically are going to start to source speakers for you. We're going to basically we have a sign up. We have a curation where we can say, oh, like so-and-so is a good speaker or so-and-so is available. And we're going to try and funnel a lot of stuff to you. If you let us know, hey, I'm going to do a ring on this day at this time, we'll try to match a speaker for you who hasn't spoken at your meetup before, who can do it in your time zone. And if at all possible, we would love to have them come in person, but the way that, Handshake Community is not that big. So likely most of your speakers are going to be remote. So we'll have to kind of adjust how the setup works for that. But speakers typically are, founders, investors, or other types of ecosystem people. Now, that's kind of like the first thing. Any questions on content?
I mean, I've also, I don't know if you think it's okay, Jehan, but I've also said if you don't have a speaker, even just a networking roundtable with, like you said, 5 people. I mean, you think it's required to have the content? I mean, of course, it's better with the speaker, but would we require
Yeah.
that, or is it could just be like a networking roundtable kind of thing?
You can do a networking roundtable, but I would say that people come, in my experience at least, people come to these events for content. And like, if all you're doing is just like socializing and like having a beer or just chilling out, like that's okay too. But for me, I like to have a ratio of like 2 or 3 to 1, meaning 2 or 3 speakers, like 2 or 3 speaker events versus 1 pure socialization event. For me, I actually never did social events. I only did content. And that was just like that was just the frame of my meetups, because I like to educate people. I like to give people something that they can't get somewhere else. Socializing, you can get at like any crypto meetup, any other kind of meetup. You just want to hang out and talk prices, whatever. But for me, I always like to be really focused so people knew what they were getting from my meetup. It's up to you as like the ringleader, but for me, that's just what I found people, responded to. That's what made people show up.
Yeah, okay. I'd agree with that. I'm just trying, I don't, maybe these people on the call could give their feedback. I just don't want, I want to make it as, easy, especially for the first one. But of course, I would also suggest a speaker would of course make it better and more
For
attractive.
your first one, I absolutely would have a speaker. I wouldn't just have people like kind of like show up. I think people want to show up for something. People want to show up for brand names. They're like, oh shit, I'm going to get someone to talk. I'm going to get like JJ to talk, or I'm going to get like, somebody who I'm going to get like whatever, Richard Kirkendall to that's amazing.
Okay.
Like, I would love to hear that.
I see Mark raised his hand. Of course, yeah, please, anyone, this is meant to be open questions, or type if you don't want to speak. But yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I was going to add, the content is definitely something to bring people, but also food and alcohol, if it can be supplied. Generally, mostly food. People go with pizza or something, but the better the food, the better the attendance.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. So, to be honest, I didn't always do food and drink. Usually, I mean, I'm in Hong Kong, so like there's always a place that people can go afterwards. Oftentimes I would have something like, maybe it was just like cans of beer or whatever. But the thing is that for the meetups that I did, it was more content driven. So I would say that sometimes there was food and drink and sometimes there was not, but people kind of got used to that. If you can provide it, that's great. Keep it simple. But yeah, it's kind of up to you.
I guess, Jehan, maybe it's another point is the financials of this, sponsors or
well, actually, if you don't mind, like I'm gonna go through venue, content,
okay, if you already have it, then maybe it's better
software and tips. So let me just go through everything.
Okay, sure.
And ask questions if they're in line. So for the venue is quite important because it's going to be your greatest cost. The best thing that you can do, and this is what I did, is I was a member of a co-working space, and they would just let me do events there. My early events were only like 20 people. They got up to like 50, 100 people later, but in the early days they would just let me do my thing because it was small. If at all you can find a place where you can do it for free, that's going to be your place. Even if you have to compromise on other things, like free venue is like the most important thing. And especially if you can get it on a regular basis. Again, my first one was in a bar. It wasn't ideal because there was like some music, and when you have, when you're zooming somebody in, it's pretty tough to hear them depending on how, like, what kind of sound you have. Because I literally had a laptop up. That was my first one. And we were just using like my laptop speaker. So it was pretty ghetto, but it still worked. I mean, people were like, oh shit, what's Ethereum? Like, this is, again, March of 2014. So I would say that if the most important thing kind of doing this is to source a good venue. Co-working spaces are very good. And the way that if most co-working spaces are going to want to charge you, but what you can say to them, and this is what I did, is that like, hey, we're going to be bringing, potential new customers to you. So if you let me just, take over for like 3 hours once a month, I can guarantee that I'm going to bring in a lot of people that could potentially be customers for you. And, either give me a price break or give me the room for free. Give me even a conference room. I used to do it in like a 10-person conference room. Oftentimes they can be more flexible with that kind of thing. And then with a conference room and a co-work space, oftentimes you already have some type of like screen that you can then pipe in your speaker or whatever. So co-working spaces I think are good. I realize a lot of you guys are in the Midwest or other places, not necessarily major cities. You can always do it at home. I don't know how people should be pretty good with that, but yeah, do it in your living room kind of thing. Any questions on venue? No.
Yeah, just to second what you say, like basically you're pitching these venues like exposure. So when we're going to help our headquarters, and we can help you make posters, we're trying to support as much as we can. So you don't got to worry about design, but if you want, you could say to the bar or the co-working space, we'll put your logo on the poster.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good point. When we get to the intros, of course, doing sponsorship, what do you call it? Recognition is going to be a big thing. Okay, so that's for the venue. And typically you only need it for like 2 hours. So when you're talking to them, 2 hours is usually sufficient. You can show up 15 minutes before, arrange your chairs. You can have like basically an hour to hour and a half content. And then 15 minutes kind of breakdown and you're done. So you can really limit how long you need the venue for to being pretty efficient. Okay, so invites. I use meetup.com because it's just the easiest. You got to pay for it, but it's relatively kind of affordable. And what I did was, it's good to be able to have like an ongoing list. I don't know, it seems pretty straightforward. Meetup.com, it's very easy to use. All you need are, people can sign up pretty easily. You could potentially use Eventbrite as well, but definitely have a piece of software which allows you to build a long-term list of invitees. It makes it easier to continue inviting people next time. Like Mike said, design-wise, if you are going to be a ringleader, then we can basically help design your collateral. We can basically make a template which is specific. Yeah, Regus. I've done meetups in Regus. We can basically create a template. So let's say Grand Rapids, we can do like, the Grand Rapids ring, right? And then only have like your own little, customized logo. And all you got to do is plug in, who's coming, or it could just be like a banner, which is like saying, oh, the Grand Rapids ring. And then that'll be like the consistent visual. And then you can just put in your details, time, place, speaker, description below. But that's the basic kind of invite. You can see from all of the, from all the meetups that I've done, how I basically, kind of structured a lot of this stuff in terms of the events. It's usually pretty basic. I like to give it a title. So for example, let me just share my screen real quick. So this was like virtual land. When was this? This was 2020. Yeah, so pretty early talking about kind of virtual land and something like this. We had one of my friends, Maddie. He lives in like Australia, and basically it's really simple. Even the format for the invite is pretty simple. You want to say like, obviously, please join us. And you just want to give them a hook, like who is this person and why am I wasting time, like, spending time to try and come and see them. You want to let people know what they're going to get. Don't assume that anybody knows who anybody is. If let's say that it's like, that, I don't know, somebody from like Namebase or whatever, give them like a one sentence hook about who they are and what they're going to get from it. And then give them some links. And that's it. I mean, you can put this kind of description together in like literally 5 minutes if you know who your speaker is. And then basically, it gives people a way in. Now, so that's your kind of intro, or that's your invitation. And then what you do is you send it out. Ideally, I like to send mine out. I like people to know that there's going to be, I like to give them like 3 weeks to a month in advance. And then like a week before, I will send another blast out to my audience. So the first one kind of goes out when I list the speaker, which is hopefully 3 weeks to a month in advance. And then the second reminder comes about a week before, because nobody's really paying attention until then. And then I'll do the day before as well. So I'll do three emails for one event. And it sounds like it's a lot, but it's actually not. It takes 1 minute to send a reminder email, because they all have it formatted for you in Meetup. So it's actually quite easy. But just remember, like, people are not paying attention at all until like basically the day before, right?
Yeah.
I don't. So being able to constantly like remind them is important. Now, the other thing that I should mention is having your own kind of like little forum, like a little WhatsApp group that you build up, is also super helpful, because that becomes your little local discussion forum, like the same way that we have in Handshake. If people are up for it, it's gonna, depending on where you are and depending on how many people are in your locale, it might take a little while to kind of get up and running. But do it the first time that you have your thing. Just, you know, have your WhatsApp group QR code out, let people scan in, or whatever it is that you're using, Telegram, etc. Start building up that list. It's all about, you know, building up your kind of list. So that's for the invites. For the event itself, actually, let me pause there. Any questions on like invitations and kind of setup?
I put it in the chat, but Noel has been also saying to use Meetup, and he's suggesting maybe on the global level we could finance it. I mean, I don't think it costs that much, but we could pay and then allow people to have different regions. And I still have to learn it. I don't know if you we can talk about it later, but Noel's gonna maybe give Ann and I some tips on it as a way, just to put that out there.
Yeah, cool. Any other questions about invitations and such? Cool. And again, like,
And
I'm throwing a lot of information at you, but actually, like, this stuff doesn't take much time. I mean, it can be extremely frictionless. It's just about reminding, and you don't have to overthink like the messaging. It's just, hey, here's 3 sentences about what we're doing. Here's a reminder. That's it.
And we want to help, you know, as much as we can from we call it headquarters, whatever you want to call it. But we'll be sharing it, of course, on various channels. We'll try to put we'll put a schedule out, let everybody know as soon as possible about your event to help with the invitation.
Now, I guess one question would be like online versus offline, like attendance and like streaming. That's kind of up to you. For me, my events were always IRL, except for the speaker. I didn't typically try to manage like other like remote attendance. It was usually just IRL attendance. I might have sometimes, if I had a Zoom speaker, I might have just like sent out the Zoom for people on to come. But typically the whole point of doing, you know, like a local ring is to have people come in person and be able to kind of activate that, you know, kind of real connection. Also, it becomes a lot harder if you're trying to like, you know, create an atmosphere, an event, and like half your attendees are remote and half your attendees are in person. So I particularly tried to focus on just like bringing real people into the room and create that kind of energy. For the event itself, again, like you can 2 hours in and out. You just want to come in, you want to make sure that your setup is okay. So if you're in a conference room, you just want to make sure that you kind of have it slightly lecture style. I always really like to organize my chairs and make it, you know, kind of very clear that like everybody's attention should be focused on the speaker, because I was a very speaker-led kind of meetup. And so I really like to make sure that the chairs were organized, sure that the, you know, the screen is set up properly. You can be more casual about it, but for me, I like to have, you know, more structure. And then basically, you know, if you have drinks, put your drinks out. food, whatever. If I was ordering pizza, obviously I would actually order pizza halfway through so that it would still be somewhat warm. And I would do food. I typically did food at the end. I didn't always necessarily do food at the beginning. Sometimes I did food at the beginning. Just depends on how you want to do it. I would basically do a simple intro. Sorry, Mayank, did you have a question? No. Okay.
No.
No problem. Yeah, so format-wise, like once you're in the actual event, I would let people just kind of buzz around. And then when I'm ready to start, I will, whatever, like clap or just kind of get everybody's attention and like start and like have a formal start and be like, hey, welcome everybody, to the Handshake Ring. Exciting event tonight. We're going to have, Mike Michelini from Sky Include kind of talking. He's going to be explaining, all the ways, that he's helping the Handshake community. And usually I like to give a little personal connection, like, I first met Mike back in and this is how we kind of connected. And so give people a way into the whole story. This is what I like about what they're doing, et cetera. And so then tell people what they're in for. We're going to do like a 20-minute, kind of talk from Mike. I'm going to ask a couple questions and then we'll open up the floor to Q&A. And that'll be it. So usually like the event is planned actually for about 45 minutes. Sometimes you'll kind of stretch over to an hour of content, but usually it ends up being that long, typically 45 minutes to an hour. And so for me, if there's new people, usually I would always introduce myself first and just remind people about who I am, because it also, kind of gives some consistency. And at least in the beginning, there were a lot of new people and a lot of people just didn't know. And it's important for you to kind of, establish yourself as like the ring leader. So people, have a sense of like who they're supposed to talk to. And, it actually helps. So people know who the leader is. And then I would introduce the person and then I would let them do their thing, basically. And I like to guide them a little bit, like, tell us about your story. How did you get into Handshake? How did you get into crypto? And then tell us about your project. And that was like the basic structure. I don't like it personally when they go right into like what they're doing because it's a bit jarring. So I always like them to have that kind of human connection first, tell a bit about their story, and then tell us about what you're doing. And for me, like my meetups were always known for being super accessible. So I would, if there were technical terms, I always approached it for like my audience that they don't know anything about crypto. And back then most people didn't. And so I would always interrupt people and be like, you just mentioned like, BFT. What is that? That's Byzantine fault tolerance. Like, can you explain what that is? So I would really make it super accessible and I would just interrupt. I would play the dumb person and just make sure that everything was super clear. Even if it's obvious to most people in the room, I would still do it because I wanted it to be super accessible. That's going to be up to you as the leader, what kind of tone you want to do. But again, if you're targeting new people, you got to imagine that not everybody's going to be like crypto native, much less like Handshake native. So make it accessible. So then they do their thing. They explain, their project. Typically, most founders will kind of know their pitch, but sometimes they need a little nudging. Oh, like, so how do you guys make money? Because sometimes they won't cover that. Or, how are you guys expanding? And then I would just kind of pretty seamlessly go into Q&A. The first section of Q&A I find is always better if I'm asking the questions. That way they kind of get the audience started. And I won't stop. I won't be like, okay, now we're going to do Q&A. I'll just start asking questions. And I'll just kind of continue to ask questions. And then after about let's say they do their pitch for the first like 20, 30 minutes. After about like, minute 40 or something like that, then I'll just be like, okay, let's open it up. And then I'll just, open it up for questions. And that's when it starts to get kind of more like lively and stuff. But I do like to direct the questions in the beginning because it's a more focused kind of like presentation. And then after a certain point, we'll just kill it and be like, all right, I think we're running up on time, maybe at the 50-minute mark. If people are super into it, you can stretch to an hour and just kill it from there and be like, thanks so much for coming. Really appreciate so-and-so for coming out. If you have more questions, here's how to reach this person. if it's recorded, we're going to put the link in the chat, whatever. And that's it. And then it's just, you let people kind of do their own thing. And then depending on how much time you have in the venue, let people like hang out for a bit and then shut it down. And I had no problems like kicking people out. And I would be like, hey, everybody's going around the corner to the bar, going to continue their socializing, but that's the end of this thing. The reason why I did that is because I don't want to babysit, right? I just want to do my thing. I just want to have my speaker. I just want to kind of have my presentation, and then I want to get out of there because, you know, for me at least, it's a lot of time, you know, and I didn't want to just like hang out. I think everybody else can hang out and that's cool. And I'll go to the bar too, but I don't want to be responsible for that part. And I certainly don't want to pay the venue for it. So that was the basic meetup. There's other kind of like little tips like moderating the speaker. I do think that moderating the speaker is very important because most founders and other people like are not naturally great speakers. And so you either need to nudge them, you need to kind of like figure out what people are going to want to hear and make sure you get it out. A lot of times founders will just kind of blather on and they'll kind of go in circles and they're just kind of get in their own head and like dive down some esoteric like rabbit hole about what they're doing. Sometimes that's good. But sometimes you got to like look at the crowd and see if you're losing them. Are people checking their phones? Are people like, you know, kind of like not really paying attention? Are they checked out? If that's the case, then just interrupt the speaker, especially if they're on like a long, you know, like 10-minute monologue, just interrupt and be like, oh, hey, I had a question, and just like change the energy. Like changing the energy, especially with like these short-term, you know, kind of attention spans, is always really good. And don't feel bad about just interrupting and be like, oh, sorry, I just had a question. And then just go for it. Always like change. And it keeps people's attention. It refreshes people's attention as they're in the room. Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the more important things. No dead space. Always, you know, if somebody's like having trouble connecting to get into the room or something like that as the end of the speaker, just fill the time. You don't want people sitting there like, you know, ask people. And the easy way to fill the time is ask people, so what have you been seeing? You know, what's going on in Handshake? What's going on in your world in Handshake? And and you can always fill the space. What else? Mike, do you have any ideas about any kind of thoughts or suggestions on that?
I'm kind of curious what, you know, I know some people here are a little bit maybe new to event organizing, but I think some are here just to help with Handshake. You know, we've been talking to some, I don't want to speak for the people I'm talking to here, but, you know, they're a little bit maybe not sure what to expect, and they're keeping an open mind. I hope they're willing to do this amount. You know, I hope this is not too much of an ask for these people. It's kind of my thought, and I just kind of want to hear what their thoughts are. But of course, if they're willing or able to do this in their city, that would be really amazing. But I think it's a good idea. Like my experiences with these was Startup Weekend. I think, you know, Jehan, I did Startup Weekend facilitating in China, a little bit in Hong Kong, in 2010, 11, 12, 13, maybe even 14. But we would try to give them as much resources and like procedures and templates as possible when we did that. But it's definitely, people are going to become leaders here. It's going to be really exciting. I really hope people here on the call take us up on this offer, an opportunity to do this. And I'm kind of curious what their thoughts are, honestly, because I think you and I are comfortable with this, Jehan, but I'm just curious what the people here think.
I think for the first few weeks, months, probably first 6 months, the number of people that turn up will be really low. So I think it's just it's trying to drag people in, make them aware of what Handshake is and the similarities between Bitcoin. I think targeting the local Bitcoin groups, which I'm seeing in the UK, are really growing now. They're really growing big now. If you target them, talk to them about how, you know, the similarities with it in aspects of freedom and decentralization, and then try and, you know, blackpill them black pill.
Black-
Handshake pill them into our movement as well.
Sure.
I think that's the way to go. And then I think then what Jehan's saying, I think we step it up to that. But at the beginning, because there's only going to be a few people, I think it's more about getting a group together that understands what Handshake is.
Yeah, I understand.
The other thing I would say is, I think those are all really good points. I think the other thing I would add to that would be, I realized I forgot to tell you this in the very beginning, because nobody knew what Ethereum was, and I think that's kind of like how it's going to be with Handshake. I would do 5 minutes of just Handshake pitch, and I would say, this is, if I were you, like I would do this because the whole point of this is to introduce people who know nothing about Handshake to get them into Handshake. So I assume that people who are coming to the meetup in the beginning don't know anything, and it's too out of context if you just have like a Handshake speaker who's talking about their project and has all these assumptions about what Handshake is and expects people to like know all this, but actually most people don't. And so I would always, at least for Ethereum, I would always be like, Ethereum is this great technology, it's started by Vitalik and and I would do 5 minutes of just, here's what Handshake, here's what Ethereum is. And I think you should do that for the same for Handshake. Here's what Handshake is. Here's why it's so great. Here's like, how it works. And you do that over and over at the beginning of every meetup. That way people have a way in. Otherwise, they're going to sit through like a 20-minute pitch by a founder and they're like, that's all great, but I didn't quite understand, like, what is Handshake again? Like,
Okay.
what is it for?
Yeah.
How does it work? And so I would start off that way.
I'm thinking we could find some template slide deck. Do you think it should be slides or just verbal in that intro? Or maybe they could.
I think it's verbal. Like, it's casual, it's verbal. It's just easy to kind of pick up. It shouldn't be so formal. But also for me, I didn't like to do slides. So that's why I didn't do it.
Okay. I think there's some slide decks, templates around that we could also find.
I think if you have a number of bullet points, maybe like 20 bullet points, you can just, knock through them every week or, every meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You don't have to kind of make it up each time. It's all right. Slides and templates will be helpful. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think, Anne's here. I mean, we can, that's kind of, we can help for sure to maybe Jehan could check it and see what he give feedback.
Sure.
We'll try to basically give like a lot of different resources, from this call. We're trying to provide the foundation or the structure. Actually, we didn't really go through the room. I don't know if people are we there yet, Jehan, or what do you think we should do next?
That's pretty much all I had. I mean, I just wanted to give you guys a sense of like, like Mike said, most of you probably are not necessarily event organizers. It can seem intimidating to do all this stuff, but actually I wasn't an event organizer when I started. You just kind of learned it's actually, you can do it very simply. You can do it very easily. It doesn't have to be like, a big planning exercise. Like you can just kind of, kludge it like easily.
And again, we're here to help. Like allow you to talk to Anne or me or others. If you need help with a speaker or a venue, maybe not the venue because we're not there locally, but speakers is where we want to help you. So if you need help with content, maybe we could ask into the, into Twitter or email, and we can have people that are willing to or can fit that time where you're based to be there online, right, in a Zoom. So just pull up a Zoom for you, have them come, and yeah.
That's probably going to be one of the more challenging things for you, is to figure out like how to actually set up your Zoom, depending on what your venue is. For me in Hong Kong, I had a lot of people coming through Hong Kong, and I had a lot of speakers in person, so I could just have them be in person. I didn't have to worry about it. But the other times, yeah, it was easier to do it in a co-working space where they have a setup already. I could just show with my laptop and then project to the screen. That was easy enough. Okay. So I do think that that'll probably be figuring out like a consistent venue where you can have a Zoom, assuming you're not in like a major city that has people that can provide IRL speakers. That's probably going to be the biggest challenge for you guys. But once you have that locked down, you got a consistent space that's not too expensive or which is free, you're pretty much set. Like you can just rinse and repeat this over and over. You know, we can just feed you speakers and, you know.
Yep. There's a couple questions in the chat, Jehan. Anne's asking about attendance badges collection.
What's an attendance badge?
I'm not sure if she's meaning an NFT or something or not. But
I mean, yeah, I see what you mean. I think it's a great idea. And the thing is that for me, again, like I was so busy at that time because like this wasn't my full-time job, obviously. I just wanted it to be simple. And so I didn't do any of that. I just wanted it to be easy. Like if you have the time and if it's something that you want to do, go for it. But for me, I just wanted to be super like path of least resistance, just get people in, educate them about Handshake, you know, give them a drink and maybe something to eat so that they're not cranky, and then get them out.
okay. So I think maybe it's up to the person organizing if you want to are able to, and Anne or I or others can support you with that. So Mark's asking, you can also turn on voice and just ask, but he's saying, and it's also a thought I've been thinking about, to pair it with a more general meetup, maybe like Web3 or DWeb. What do you think of that, Jehan? Like,
It's great if you can piggyback. I mean, it's like we did with the Super Meetup. We piggybacked on top of like a much larger conference. If there's something happening like in your town or in a, you know, you can always do it in a surrounding town. Like if you're, you know, let's say that there's a big event happening in Detroit, you could take one event and be like, hey, we're moving the Grand Rapids, you know, meetup to Detroit for one day. We're going to do something bigger. We're going to get a bigger venue. You can do that. It's just, you know, it's a good way to draw other people, and then you can market to the people that are going to the bigger event. It's just how much effort you want to kind of put into it. For me, I just want to give you like the very baseline, you know, how easy it can be, because consistency, like doing it every month, is the hardest thing.
For sure. Okay, I know you really appreciate your time, Jehan. I know it's getting to the hour mark. I'm not sure how much. I don't know if we can fit in some people just maybe introducing or just typing New Mexico, just to understand where people are calling in from, or New Mexico. I think some are in Canada. I don't want to, you know, New Jersey. In the UK. So what are some?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the UK, I don't know how far away from London you are, but if you did one in London every now and then, that would be also, you know, pretty cool. Or maybe other major places. I mean, obviously, you're going to get more attendance and more interest the closer you are to a major metropolis. So even if you're not doing it there every month, if you did it, you know, maybe once a quarter, that would also kind of be super super helpful.
Yeah, me and Bobby can do that, no problem.
It's great. It's great.
All right. Yeah, so I don't know if you see Jehan in the chat. New Mexico, San Antonio, Montreal, Ann Arbor, Michigan are ones filling it in or typing it in.
Yes. I think the other question that I would have would be for you guys. I mean, if you don't mind, let's just go down the line and say, like, you know, this isn't like a school assignment, but I would love to hear from you guys. Like, when do you think you could do your first one? Like, let's assume that we can provide the content for you. When could you do your first one? First one's always the hardest. Mark, I'm just going to go down the line. Mark, when do you think you might do the first one?
I think I might be able to organize something for mid-April.
Awesome.
I'm looking for more of I come from the domain investing world.
Sweet.
That's kind of how I found out about Handshake at NamesCon back in May, and or no, not May, September, August. So I'm thinking of trying to pair it up together to hit a broader audience. But might be able to pull it off.
Great.
Nice. Bob?
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch base with Nin and try and get one sorted out for the Midlands for probably end of next month sometime or something. But I definitely think there's some movement and traction if we can get some content and get things going. Yeah, all down for it, all up for it, or whatever which way.
Awesome. And again, like I think content for the first one should be pretty simple, because content for the first one has to be, what is Handshake? It's got to be an intro to Handshake, because otherwise, your audience won't have any way in. And so we can give you a speaker, but I really suggest that the first one should just be quite simple, just giving like people an overview of Handshake. That would be my suggestion. Santiago, any thoughts?
Some people can't do audio, or I think
Okay.
he's
Maybe around September, October, trying to see if Montreal, Toronto. I mean, I think Montreal would be great. If you're in Montreal, do Montreal. I think, yeah, I mean, if that's where you are. Like Montreal is a big enough city. I think you can get a lot of crypto people there, no? Awesome.
Great.
Anne, are you thinking of running one in the Philippines?
Hey, yeah, I'm actually thinking of one, but not anytime soon. I have to help Mike and you create the content for everyone. But definitely will help with organizing. If I could set a free time, yeah, maybe soon, like Q2 or Q3, and that would be good for me.
Cool. Well, again, it's like I said, it's not that hard to organize. All you need is a venue, and you're going to have the content set up already. So don't be shy about, kind of being aggressive and, building up that kind of profile. Mayank?
Yeah, I'm targeting schools. So I'm trying to do one next month, like by end of it. If not next month, then definitely like starting on the fall, because
Sweet.
that's when all the new students come in. So I want to just give them a taste of it, get them interested about it, so they can work throughout the semesters. So yeah, definitely I'm trying to bring more developer guys into it.
Cool. I mean, but at the same time, I mean, don't necessarily limit yourself to students, because, students can be, they're by nature kind of a transient audience. Like they're only going to be there for, 2 to 3 years in the orbit. So, maybe there's other people. Where are you based again, Mayank?
I'm in New Mexico.
Cool.
I live by Albuquerque. It's the capital town.
Yeah, I mean, that would be sweet. That would be a sweet meetup.
Yeah, that's been on my mind all the time. Like I've been talking to students too. I live in the student area. I've been talking to students, and they seem like interested into it, but nobody is like willing to take a step ahead and do something about it. So I already thought about venues and everything.
Awesome.
I'm just working on my script and everything. Probably I will do it soon.
Great. And my suggestion to you would be to like expand that audience beyond students, because for sure you're gonna, if you want like a consistent audience, you're gonna need to go kind of beyond students pretty quickly. Cool. Guys, I apologize. I actually have another meeting that I got to run to, but Ngoại Đăng, are you thinking of doing a meetup soon?
For me? Oh,
No.
That's Augury.
Augury.
Irene.
Sorry.
Yeah, Augury. Yeah. Irene, are you able to turn on your mic?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool. Are
So-
you thinking of doing one anytime?
Yeah, we are putting up meetup soon, but maybe it will be in November this year.
But
We're
November is so far away.
Actually, we're still planning. Like, for example, for now we are doing online. We are doing the videos on YouTube and Twitter and TikTok as well. We want to get reach. We want to reach to Vietnamese teenager like that.
Got it. Do you think there's any way to do a meetup in person before, like, let's say maybe by May?
I haven't had that project yet. Maybe it could be online.
Yeah, can also be online if that's what you think is best for your area. But again, I think part of like what I experience is that when you do something in person, it creates a different energy. It creates a different type of engagement, because people are hanging out with each other rather than just online. Because online, it's like, there's so many different online forums. You have Discord, you have like Twitter Spaces, you have everything. But up to you, whatever you think.
Yeah, but I think I would like to reach to Vietnamese teenager at first. I want they had to know about me at first.
Cool.
So
Cool.
I went through social media.
Got it. Got it. Okay, cool. Marcus, any thoughts?
Yeah. I could probably do one right after consensus. I'll do some build up between now and then and find a venue and then
Amazing.
invite some out there.
That's awesome. That's incredible.
Great.
Eskimo?
On Jordan. Yeah, I don't know. He's just listening, he said in chat.
Fair enough. Just kind of listening. Well, let us know if you want to take that step into organizing something. Stewie? Stewie's also where?
Hey, yeah, I'm in Grand Rapids. I was
Right.
thinking maybe mid-April too. I
Sweet.
scoped out the Bitcoin meetup here, and they do it at a co-work place. So I was thinking maybe that'd be a spot to hit up and
Great
see
idea.
if that's possible.
Great idea. It's a great idea because also you can try and attract an audience that's already used to going to a certain venue for these types of things. That's super helpful. It's a great idea.
Right. The one thing with the Bitcoin meetups is usually they discourage any talk of anything besides Bitcoin. So
Right.
I don't know if it's possible to broach the subject of Handshake there. I haven't been to that meetup yet.
Probably not. I'm not saying that you should merge with them or try to, because you're right. Bitcoin maxis can be super maxi.
Right.
But
You might conveniently. Oh, go.
yeah, but I mean, you can at the same time, you can model your meetup in the same way and try to attract them. But again, don't be discouraged if your first meetup only has 3 or 4 people. That's how it is in the beginning. It's not about knocking it out of the park at the beginning. It's just about having it. It needs to exist and then have it get its own momentum. My meetup didn't really take off for the first 3, 4, 5 months. And then it really started to snowball, but you just kind of you got to keep showing up. You got to keep doing the events. And then you'll find that you actually have a big community. So I got to jump, guys. Really appreciate everything. Really appreciate everybody's attention, and I'll leave you with Mike. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll just wrap up in a bit, but thanks, Jehan, for your time. Okay, well, yeah, I think it's super great to have Jehan's support. Even before HandyCon, he was pushing for this initiative. When I talked to him, I've been thinking about it a lot, and I guess one other way to think about it is kind of the road to HandyCon 2024 is kind of how I'm thinking of it. And maybe if we get these going well enough, we could have it where these rings could host a little mini HandyCon in that hub. Maybe, of course, maybe we can think of it like a 1-year plan. We just finished HandyCon, so see how much we can do into the next year. Mark's giving some feedback in the chat too. Yeah, and then Ann says, once we get these going, we could plan to meet at these rings. People could travel, right? If we know there's a ring happening in your city, and it's a good excuse to go there, right, for other people in the community. So maybe we'd have it where people would travel to that location by car, plane, whatever, if they know it's going to happen. And that's kind of what happened to other communities I'm involved with. Of course, I'm active in an Amazon seller community, so people will hear about a meetup or something happening in a location, they'll go there. They want to go there anyway, but then they have this excuse or reason to go, is there's this meetup, right? So they get to visit your city and meet you and others in the community and also do things in that city. So that's a good point, Ann. Any other? Oh, go ahead.
What would you suggest for day of the week?
So I don't know if somebody saw I made some Twitter videos. I was thinking almost to do everybody to do it at the same time, same day, but Jehan doesn't think that that's practical. But usually I'd say basically my answer is midweek, usually in the middle of the week, not the beginning or the end of the week or the weekend. So like usually Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. If you ever look at events, most events are on Tuesday night, Wednesday night, or Thursday night. If you ever look, Monday night you could do, but usually Mondays kind of suck for everybody and they're just getting their work done and they're busy. Usually people don't want to do an event on a Monday, in my opinion. And a Friday is kind of already weekend. So sometimes people do events on Fridays. I feel like it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. Like usually I say like 7 p.m. right in your local city. Normally is what I think is some people come after work or school or whatever. It's also hopefully not dinner time unless you have food, so they maybe ate before or they order there. I know you mentioned food, Mark. I mean, I guess we don't really have a sponsor right now for these. I don't, unless you think it's really reasonable or something. I don't think we should expect food, or maybe people can get a discount. You can get a discount at the bar or restaurant you're at, so people can buy their own food or drink. I don't think we should expect them to get food, but back to your answer, I think Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, 7 p.m. is the best, in my opinion. And we can all support each other. Maybe is Telegram good? And maybe we make a group, like a small group with us and some kind of a community for these people on the call or organizers, so we can get to know each other more. We can support each other. It's really about community, right? I think any business or protocol is about community. So if we can help each other and support each other, we can improve and grow. So yeah, I think I think we're, I think we've passed 1 hour, so I think we can wrap up. Of course, Anne's been helping so much coordinating, but of course you can talk to me too, but she's been really helping me keep everything smooth. So maybe we make a Telegram group or others, whatever is convenient. And hopefully this was helpful. Let us know maybe privately or in a group how you feel, what else you would like us to do. We are here, we can help with the posters easily, and we're looking into the Meetup subscription. Yeah, Anne just shared our telegrams. I think a lot of you already connected to us, but maybe we confirm if you want to join the group, and then we could invite you to the group if you're open for that. Okay, but definitely Jehan is supporting this. He's been I think it was the first time in December he actually wanted to do HandyCon in person. I didn't think we could pull it off. I don't, I also would like your feedback about next HandyCon, but I think these rings could be a good way to get some more in real life, in person, to build a community. So thank you all. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.